Okay, we can get started. People will probably be trickling in. The first thing I do just want to note for everybody that this is going to be recorded and streaming, so just so you're aware of that. Um, and okay, we're gonna start recording. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our mindfulness workshop. My name is Jillian Ma, and I am the lead wellness counselor at Aragon High School. Another member of my team, Max Bernstein, is here somewhere. He is also a wellness counselor at Aragon. Some of you may know him. So our Aragon PTSO is very pleased to bring you this workshop. It looks a little different than it did originally, but thanks to Olivia Enriquez, one of our Aragon alumni, as well as Lourdes Enriquez, we were able to recalibrate and bring you this slightly different version of a workshop that really kind of focuses and addresses some of the things going on right now that we're all experiencing. Um, so we're going to bring you an hour of learning about mindfulness, as well as some of the mental health services that the district has been offering in the closure, as well as and beyond. So before I begin, I'd just like to give Olivia a chance to say hello.
Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Enriquez and I started Stride for Awareness in 2015. I just wanted to thank Aragon PTSO for hosting this workshop, and I also want to welcome and thank everyone for being with us today. Your participation is evidence of how this community is supportive, strong, and resilient to whatever comes our way. So I thank you, and I truly hope that you find today's workshop valuable.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Um, we're experiencing some pretty extraordinary times right now. And while everyone is going through something a little bit different, we're all reacting in some way to some of the massive changes that have been brought upon us. Speaking from a mental health perspective, some of the things that I have noticed, and a lot of our therapists have noticed, are people trying to really define expectation. What should I be doing? Am I doing enough? Am I enough? All of those things. And that, coupled with the uncertainty that's been looming, has really caused a lot of stress. So today we're hoping to sort of empower you with some ways to become more aware of your mindset, so that you can get through some of the difficulties as a result of this current situation, as well as other things that we will all face moving forward. So we have two speakers today. It's my pleasure to introduce Tanya Hawkins and April Torres. Tanya is a certified mindfulness practitioner who's going to discuss some tools that can help us, hopefully, to cope with some of the current stressors and emotions that we're all feeling. And she's going to guide us through some really great mindfulness exercises. And April Torres is Manager of Mental Health Services in our district, and she is going to tell us a little bit about the resources available, the mental health resources available in our district. We will also have a Q&A portion at the end, so please save all of your questions until both speakers have finished. And then just asking for your assistance so that we can provide you the most effective and orderly workshop. So during the question and answer section, you can use the hand tool at the bottom of your screens so that we can call on you. For those of you, if you're calling in, you can press *9, and that's the way to raise your hand. We advise everyone, if you'd like to put the speaker view on just to help you focus on the presentation, you can do so by going to the upper left corner of your Zoom screen and clicking on speaker view. And if you'd like to turn off your video cameras, it minimizes some of the moving parts on the screen. Do what you're comfortable with. And then, of course, when you ask questions, you can feel free to turn it back on. And then everyone's going to be remain muted throughout the presentation, just so that it minimizes background noise. So thank you for cooperation, and without further delay, welcome to Tanya Hawkins.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jill, for the introduction, and thank you, everyone, for being here. As Jill said, I'm Tanya Hawkins, and I'm a certified mindfulness practitioner, but I'm also a parent of 2 teenage boys who both attend San Mateo High School. So you may be wondering, how does one become a mindfulness teacher? Well, in the most simplest terms, I saw the effects of what mindfulness did for me and the effects it had on my life. And they were so profound that I wanted to pursue this in a bigger way. So if you just rewind a minute and kind of look at me as a whole of who I am, I would self-describe myself as a type A personality overachiever, someone who's constantly pushing myself, thinking I could do it all, the wife, the mom, started my own business, and just I've always been that person who was just constantly pushing myself, striving to achieve my goals, to be perfect. In many ways, my success in those areas was really how I measured my self-worth. And over time, as I was running here, running there, keeping myself completely busy, and sometimes, many times, pushing myself to the point of being overwhelmed, I noticed that I had this kind of emptiness and I was feeling unfulfilled. And as I started to notice that, I also noticed that I wasn't liking how I was relating to my family and friends. And I wasn't, because I was so overwhelmed by all the things I was doing, I wasn't really able to show up and be fully present with them a lot of times. And I was doing all these things that I thought I was supposed to be doing in life and was using those things as measurements of my own self-worth. Um, I was not feeling happy and satisfied. And, I just had this yearning that there had to be something more that could be going on, right? That I could be doing. So that's kind of how I fell into mindfulness and meditation. And as I started, it was really funny how I fell into it. I just found a class at my local rec center, and that was the start of everything. And like I said earlier, as I started doing mindfulness and I saw the effects that it had on my life, I couldn't help but think, wow, what if I had learned this, earlier? What if I had learned this as a child? Like, how would my life be different? How, what choices might I have made differently in my life? And so that was really the impetus that pushed me to pursue mindfulness in a bigger way, and how I ended up here today. Can you hang on one sec? I hear my phone going off over here. All right, sorry about that. That was from the San Mateo district of all places. So anyway, I'm sure you've all heard about mindfulness. And in fact, it seems like it's something we hear a lot about these days. But what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is really just simply the practice of bringing your awareness to the present moment and doing so with kindness, curiosity, and without judgment. So most of the time, our attention is caught up in what I like to call the ever-changing kaleidoscope of our busy minds, whether it's our thoughts, excuse me, our emotions, memories, stories, worrying, planning, organizing, you name it. And because our minds get so busy ping-ponging around with all of that stuff, it really leaves us very little capacity to focus on the task that we're trying to do at any given moment. So what I have found as the best way to truly start to understand mindfulness is to actually do mindfulness. So I want to do a really quick mindful breathing exercise with you guys. So if you can all just find a comfortable position, your feet flat on the ground. If they're crossed, just try and uncross your feet, hands in your lap, just relax and just allow your eyes to close. Or if you're not comfortable with your eyes closing, just try and cast your gaze down at your lap. And just slowly take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And again, in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just take a moment to notice where in your body you can feel your breath the most. Maybe it's in the movement of air in your nostrils. Or perhaps it's the rising and falling of your chest. Perhaps it's the wave of in and out of your belly. I just want you to notice where in your body you can find your breath the most. And just use that spot as an anchor, helping you to come back to your breath over and over again. And as you might notice, your mind will wander off. And that's okay. Just use that anchor spot to help you bring yourself back to your breath. Let's just take a few more breaths, breathing in and breathing out. When you're ready, just slowly bring your awareness back to the room and open your eyes if your eyes were closed. When we're focused on our breath, we're actually in the present moment. And as our mind wanders off, which it will, the moment that we remember to come back to our breath, the moment that we notice that our mind has wandered off, we're actually being mindful. And that's part of the practice of being mindfulness, a practice of being mindful. As we practice mindfulness over and over, we can really start to develop the ability to be present for any given experience, just as it is with full awareness. We can be mindful pretty much of anything, whether it be our breath, sights, sounds, emotions, thoughts, movements, as I said, pretty much anything. But as with any other skill that we might be trying to learn, whether it's exercise, an instrument, a new activity, needlepoint, whatever it is, the more we practice, the easier it becomes. So over time, as you practice mindfulness, you can really learn how to bring your mindful awareness to your everyday life. Some of the main benefits of mindfulness include increased focus and concentration, stress reduction and anxiety, improved self-awareness and self-regulation, increased compassion and empathy for ourselves and for others. And the one that I found most particularly in my life, what it's had is on my emotional regulation. And that's the reason that I became so passionate about mindfulness, is I really saw the benefits that it had on my life in terms of my emotional regulation. So as Jillian has alluded to earlier, right now more than ever, I think mindfulness can be a really important tool to help us navigate our way forward. We find ourselves in a situation that none of us, whether you're an adult, a child, none of us have ever been in this experience before. And our lives have virtually changed overnight. And as a result, we're collectively experience a huge change and a loss. As I read more and more stuff, I get all these mindfulness newsletters, and it's really interesting, but that's really kind of sums it up. We're kind of a world of mourning right now. We have that sense of loss of what was secure and safe in our world. Just our way of life has been turned upside down. We struggle with loss of things we maybe didn't even realize were important to us, like the loss of our autonomy, being stuck in our four walls with other people 24/7, the loss of normalcy, of having maybe a routine or a schedule, the loss of connection with other human beings. And yes, even for all you teens who are on this call, who your primary form of connection is texting, you still feel that loss of connection because you can no longer be surrounded by other people. So with that loss comes the process of grief and of letting go of what was. And grief is probably one of the most difficult emotions to deal with, right? One day you might be feeling fine and everything's great, and the next day you just feel completely sad or worried or anxious. And sometimes you don't even know where it's coming from. And so we struggle with that. And we get lost in our thoughts trying to understand what's happening. Maybe judgments come up of why we're feeling the way we are, or maybe we think we shouldn't be feeling the way we are. And, we're taught, right? Oh, we try to focus on the positive, but sometimes even that can cause more confusion and judgment and self-doubt because we don't know why we're feeling the way we are. So I just want to share a quick personal story in this regard. So March 29th was my 50th birthday. And I had this big trip that I had planned since last August with my BFF to go to Bali. And come February, like late January, early February, we're like, we probably shouldn't go on our trip. And it wasn't so much at that point in time that we were afraid of getting sick, but it was more of what happens if we get quarantined and we're like away for a month, right? We were supposed to be gone for 10 days and then another 14, we'd be gone virtually a month. And so, we decided to cancel that trip. Then we had a backup plan of, okay, let's do something locally. Maybe we go to Palm Springs or we do something fun, a little, staycation. And our last resort was maybe I just go visit her in LA and we do something fun. Well, as time went on, this plan eroded, this plan fell apart, this plan, and I was just, really bummed out. I'm like, this is a monumental birthday for me and I can't do anything. I'm stuck at home with my family, which I love them dearly. And, that was great, but it's like, I can't even go out to dinner or do anything. And so I was really frustrated. I was angry. I was upset. And then I would tell myself, Tanya, you really shouldn't be feeling this way. People are dying. There's so many other things happening in the world right now. This isn't okay. And it took me some time of just sitting with all those emotions to realize like, it's okay for me to have those feelings. Just because there's all this stuff happening in the world doesn't mean that I can't still have my emotions, and allowing myself to have those emotions and feel the sadness and the anger and the frustration at the same time that I'm holding the sadness for what's happening in the world is okay. And it was weird because it was creating this guilt within myself of, oh, I shouldn't be having these emotions. And I was judging my emotions. And yet if I didn't allow myself to have them, it becomes this weird kind of self-fulfilling thing of where somehow my emotions aren't okay. And all emotions are okay. They're simply information, right? That's coming to us that of something we need to pay attention to, right? And so I think that all of you can probably relate to that in some way. And especially right now where there's so much that's uncertain in the world, it's really hard to know what we're feeling any given moment. And it's okay to feel whatever we're feeling. And so with that, I would love to do a self-compassion meditation with you guys, just to give you guys a little moment to kind of acknowledge everything that we're going through. So again, if everyone can just sit in a comfortable position, feet flat on the floor, hands in our lap, and just allow your eyes to close or cast your gaze down at your hands in your lap and just settle into your posture. And just noticing how your body feels. Take a moment and notice the sensation of your feet touching the floor. Do they feel like they're floating? Can you feel the soles of your feet in your shoes or on the ground? Notice how your bottom touches the cushion of the chair, the weight of your arms and your head. Just be in your body right here, right now, fully inhabiting your lived experience. Now just allow your attention to move outward to the sounds. Just taking a moment to notice what sounds are around you right now. Are there noises outside your window? Maybe a fan blowing or the sound of a clock. Just noticing what sounds you hear. Trying not to reach out to the sounds. Just let the sounds come to you. Now focusing on your breath. Sense of inhaling and exhaling. Again, noticing where in the body you feel your breath most strongly. Is it your nostrils? Or perhaps your chest as it rises and falls? Or maybe it's your belly as it goes in and out like waves of the ocean. Let's just take a few moments and rest with our breath. Simple and easy, breathing in and breathing out. And just notice the peacefulness of being quiet, of resting, as you just gently breathe in and out. You have nowhere you need to be. Just be in this moment. And now I'd just like you to bring your mind to some aspect of your personality, perhaps some mistake you've made, a failure that has been bothering you lately. Maybe it's something related to our current situation, something that perhaps you've been criticizing yourself for, or that's made you feel inadequate in some way. Whatever this trait or action is, just try and get in touch with the feeling of it. How does it make you feel? Do you feel sad, frightened, isolated, inadequate? Now I want you to see if you can locate the sensations of this emotion in your body. Perhaps it's a tightness in your throat, a heaviness in your heart, a tension in your shoulders. What emotions do you feel when you think about this mistake or inadequacy? Where are these emotions felt in the body? Just allow them to be there instead of resisting the feeling. These are natural feelings that arise when we judge ourselves. Just notice them. What am I feeling? Where are the emotions in my body? Just get in touch with how much suffering is caused by our self-judgment, our fears of not being good enough. Some of our greatest suffering is caused at our own hands by the belief that somehow we should be perfect. Now I just want you to take one of your hands, or both of your hands if you prefer, and place it gently over your heart in a very calm, soft, comforting manner. You might even want to rub a little soothing, reassuring circle. And just see if you can sense your heart. See if you can let your heart be moved by how difficult your emotional experience is when you think about the things that make you feel bad about yourself. And what we will do now is repeat some loving kindness phrases designed to help you feel compassion for the fact that you are not perfect. You are trying your best, but no one on this planet is perfect. We are all inadequate in some way, and we all make mistakes. We all fail. This is the human experience, and it's okay. So I'll say a few set of phrases aloud, and then you can repeat them to yourself silently. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself the way that I am. Just feel the warmth of your hand on your heart. And continue to repeat these phrases silently. Just really try to get in touch with the intentions behind the words. The intentions to offer yourself kindness, compassion, and acceptance. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself the way that I am. Just remembering that everyone is in the same boat. Everyone feels inadequate in some way. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone fails. This is the human condition. This is normal. This is something we all share, and it's okay. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I accept myself the way that I am. Again, put your hand on your heart, or if it's been there the whole time, really just feel your hand on your heart. And while we've been focusing on comforting ourselves for painful feelings, for suffering, I want you to just see if you can feel what the compassion itself feels like. Maybe your heart is tingling or feeling warm. Maybe it feels vibrant in some way. Just notice the qualities of an open heart that's filled with compassion. The beautiful feelings of tenderness, care, concern, kindness. Noticing the joy of compassion, of connectedness, of open-heartedness. This too is part of the human experience. And thank yourself for being a good and supportive friend. May we all be well and safe, happy and free. Just taking another deep breath. I just want you to slowly bring yourself back into awareness of the room you're in. There's no rush, just taking your own time. When you feel ready, just open your eyes. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that. And perhaps you have a little more sense of calm or peace. And while thus far, mostly what I've been doing is singing the praises of mindfulness, I also want to be clear that mindfulness is not a panacea. It doesn't protect us from feeling fear, anxiety, grief, or any other strong emotions, but it can really offer us a really useful tool to navigate those complicated emotions. So for me, as I've practiced mindfulness and as I've developed my practice over time, and as I mentioned earlier, I have a very different relationship to my emotions than I did before. And that's really been the biggest change mindfulness has brought to my life. I've learned to allow myself to have emotions, all the emotions, and even the ones that we might label as negative or bad, and not push them away or ignore them. I'm better able to handle my emotions, even strong ones, without allowing them to take control. And through the practice of mindfulness, I've really become more mindful of how my emotions manifest in my physical body, which has helped me to more easily recognize my emotional responses. And I'll be the first to admit, I did not have much emotional intelligence before I had mindfulness in my life. Over time, as I practice, I've really been able to learn to recognize when I'm having a strong emotional reaction. And instead of instantly reacting and going straight to a story or reacting in a way that I don't want to, I'm actually now able to give myself a little space between that emotional reaction and how I choose to respond. So bringing mindfulness into those moments, I found I'm really able to give myself some space around strong emotions. And in that recognition, there's this moment of pause where I'm able to choose how I want to respond instead of reacting to any situation. So, for example, I'm sure you've all had the situation where you go on social media and something instantly triggers you. Old pre mindfulness Tanya would, whip out a response, hit send before anything ever crossed my mind or gave it to any kind of real thought. And now when I read something that, triggers me, I notice, wow, I'm really feeling triggered by that. And then I kind of go into this inquiry of why am I feeling so triggered? And that moment of inquiry and that moment of noticing is really super powerful because in that little moment, I've then given myself space to recognize what's happening within me and be curious about it. And that moment of pause gives me just enough to allow me to choose how I want to respond as opposed to just reacting. And also if I even want to respond at all. And it's super empowering. And it's super empowering. So don't get me wrong, the stronger the emotional reaction, the harder it is to be mindful. And as my entire family will attest, I still have my moments where I lose my, and definitely uh unleash, and it's not pretty, but with mindfulness it's definitely happens less frequently, and when those outbursts happen, I notice that I now show up differently after. My old self would have been to get rid of the emotional feeling that's happening, and once that kind of rush of adrenaline and reaction has happened, I would go into the sense of, either feeling guilty about what happened or shaming myself for having unleashed on whoever it was that was the target of of the moment, and really having judgment of myself for letting that happen. But now, after the emotion has kind of passed and I've gained some self control and I'm not shaming myself or guilting myself, rather I go into a little more curiosity and say, wow, that really was emotional. I really lost control of that. And I start to look at like, well, what happened? And sometimes I realize I'm just not very resourced in that moment. Maybe I'm really hungry or tired, or I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Maybe something happened earlier in my day, or multiple things happened earlier in my day that I'm now carrying over into this moment. And my reaction that I had to the person in front of me had nothing to do with them, but they pushed an old wound, a button to an old wound that maybe happened or whatever. And again, old pre-mindfulness Tanya would have been, okay, when this is over, sweep it under the rug. Let's not talk about it. It's over with. I don't want to deal with it. That has all changed as well. So the way that I show up after these things happen has really transformed, where as I do the inquiry and the self reflection of and curiosity about, okay, what happened? Why did this happen? I go back to the person and I have the conversation and I acknowledge, hey, you know what? That was not my finest moment, not how I wanted to react. And even owning, what maybe was going on for me in that moment, or speaking my truth about, hey, you know what you said? Like, I realized that that's something in me that I need to work on, but I didn't appreciate maybe the way you said it. And then I can come to it with a conversation and some insight and actually connect with the person and be mindful with them in that moment, to where we can actually have some resolve instead of just having this thing kind of hang in the air like it would have previously. And in fact, these types of things, another little example of what's been going on for me lately, and I think a lot of the parents on this call probably can relate, is with teens in the house and with us being in this new, whatever it is, I wouldn't call it normal, but in our new way of being, um, they like to sleep really late and they like to go to bed really late. And as a parent, I've really had to check in with myself and say, okay, is this about me or is this about them? And so I realize it's a combination of both, right? There's part of it of where I really think they should be going to bed earlier. They should be keeping a normal schedule. And yet we aren't in a normal scheduled time right now. There's nothing normal about what's happening. And so, I've shifted my conversations with my kids and recognizing that it is natural for teens to sleep later and get up later. And that's kind of just natural part of their biorhythm as a teen. So recognizing that and then recognizing, okay, what am I bringing? What are my morals? What are my values that I'm bringing to this in terms of, well, I think they should be doing this. And then recognizing, well, they aren't in a normal situation. They're dealing with their own stuff. This is their only connection to the world, being online and hanging out with their friends. And if that's what all their friends are doing, so my conversations have somewhat shifted with them of, okay, this is not normal right now. And I'm telling you, I'm accepting it now. But when things start to go back to normal, then we're going to have to talk about what that's going to look like then, because this is not going to continue. But for now, I think we can all agree that we can accept it. It doesn't mean I like it, but I'm accepting it for what it is and what it looks like now. So anyway, I hope that everything I've shared with you is giving you a little better understanding of mindfulness and how it can help you if you weave it into your life. Keep in mind, mindfulness doesn't have to be a big commitment. We did a few little exercises here, but it can be something even super small where maybe you choose something where it's, if you're in your car, I don't know how many of us are actually in our car right now, but maybe it's before you sit down and open your computer, or maybe it's when you go to get something out of the refrigerator, or maybe it's when you walk through a doorway of your house. But maybe find something that you do frequently during the day and just try and make an effort to, every time you do that particular thing, take a deep breath. Notice what's happening in your body in that moment. And I think that you will find some very interesting things. One, you'll probably find how mindless we spend most of our time. And also notice how you relate to that. What happens when you realize you've gone 3 days and never even done this exercise? Do you beat yourself up? Do you say, oh, I can't do this? Do you say, oh, wow, I'm really not very mindful, and start again and just bring yourself back to trying it again. So I encourage you to do that. And I just want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes. And anyone who's heard me speak before has probably heard this, but I just love this quote and I think it's so relevant. So with no further ado, yesterday is history. Tomorrow is but a mystery. but today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your being here with us.
Thank you so much, Tanya. That was absolutely wonderful. Your piece about self-compassion is just so particularly important right now. So thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. My name is April Torres, Manager of Mental Health Services. And I want to just go over a little bit about our services. Thank you, Tanya, for your amazing presentation. I really appreciated it. I always appreciate hearing you speak. And it was a nice way for me to be mindful. And I think for all of us that although we're all in this together, our experiences may be and are very different, and to appreciate that and support each other with what we're all experiencing. So one of the reasons I was so excited to speak today is to make sure that everybody on this call knows about our services and what we provide for students and for families and for our staff. So that has not changed during this time. We continue to provide supports for our students. And we do that both culturally and with language supports. So we're able to provide services in Spanish and Mandarin, Tagalog, Russian, and those are just to name a few. So we continue to offer individual support for students. We do run groups. We're not running groups right now, but we do provide drop-in services. So if a student wants to make an appointment, there's ways to do that on our website, on the district website, as well as the school website. They can also email their wellness counselor directly, or their school counselor. They can let their teacher know that they want to talk to us. So there's a couple ways to reach out. We continue to support students with suicide prevention and awareness. We want to make sure that they're feeling heard and supported. We're supporting with self-regulation and coping strategies right now, just to build resiliency, especially during this time. For families, we continue to run a Parent Connect virtual class. So that's really supporting parents and with the how-tos, especially during this time. Tanya mentioned having 2 teens in her home. I also have 2 teens that are in the district, and it doesn't matter how much you know and how much that you can support other people, but when it comes to your own family, sometimes it's a little harder to do. So we're able to support families right now with this parent group. So if it's something that you're interested in, please feel free to reach out to your wellness staff at your school site, or you can contact me directly, and my information will be available at the end of this presentation. We're also available for staff. So staff have been reaching out to us either to support students or to help support staff, because our staff is also trying to support the students as well as their own responsibilities at home, either with their own children and their learning, their remote learning, or maybe they have a sick family member and trying to support that way. So again, we're all in this together, although it might look a little different for each of us. If there's ways that wellness can help support students, our seniors I know are just really trying to navigate through what's supposed to be a rite of passage and how that's looking very different right now. So we're available for that. We're available for families. So please feel free to reach out to wellness. We are here for that support. There is a new service that we are very excited to bring to the district. And if we can move to the next slide, thank you. That's perfect. So this service is new. We are launching it at the end of this week. So we'll be sending out information. And it's called Care Solace. And it is not a therapeutic program or service. It does not replace school-based mental health or any outside services, but it does support students and their families with around-the-clock care concierge services. So families that are needing to reach out to insurance providers, or if they need to reach out to their to an outside community resource, they'll be able to do that through Care Solace. So Care Solace is a concierge service. It is around the clock, so that means it's open 24/7, including nights, weekends, holidays, and during the summer. And there's a couple of ways that students and their families, including siblings, parents, caregivers, grandparents, can use this service. So one of the ways, I'm going to talk about a couple of the ways they can use this service, but what does this service help support families reach out to? And if we can go to the next slide. Some of the things that we refer out to as wellness are if students have need support around severe depression, trauma, eating disorders, and that's just to name a few. Then what we want to do is to be able to support them and getting that service. So we have teamed with Care Solace to help support families and reach out to these services with minimal disruption to their lives and quick response times. So this is a service that if a student or a family member would like help from a school counselor or a wellness therapist to support reaching out for some of these services, we can do that. Families and students can also reach out to Care Solace on their own. So by the end of the week, we'll have some links available on our district and school websites. So people can reach out independently if we're not available in the evening or weekends or during the summer, or if they would like this more confidential. And what will happen is if you want to go through the school or wellness counselors or on your own, within about 15 or 20 minutes of you filling out I think it's 5 or 6 questions of what supports you're looking for. They help with if you have insurance, if you don't have insurance, if you have Medi-Cal, or if it's a community resource that you need, they'll be able to support and reach back out to you within 15 to 20 minutes with vetted services available. So this is not only for our students, it is for students' families. So if a family would like family support or marital support, or maybe somebody's struggling with substance use in the family, or maybe a grandparent has lost maybe their spouse and needs some support. So there's anybody in the family can use this service. And I would really encourage everybody to read the information that we'll be sending out by the end of this week. It is just another way that we're able to provide support, long-term support for students and their families and the community as a whole. So I will, Jill Ma is one of the wellness counselors that I've worked with closely over this is our 4th year in our program. And she's amazing, as well as Max Bernstein. He's in here in the cyber world as well. So you can reach out to Jill or Max directly. Again, my information will be at the end of this. I can get back to you. Oh, there it is right there. And you can call my work phone. I'll check messages, but email is usually the best way to reach me. And with that, I will turn it back over to Jill because I know we're leaving time for Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much, April. So the last part of our time together is just going to give you all an opportunity to ask us questions for either myself, for April, or for Tanya. If you have any questions, you can use the hand raising tool. You did such a good job with the presentation that there's no questions. This is great.
Well, I can maybe some questions will be sparked once I share. One of the things we're doing at the district right now, and wellness is heavily involved, is the return to school in August, on August 12th. We are really putting our efforts together on how we can support. Right now, a lot of our support is via Google Hangouts or through telephone conversations, and that's called telehealth. And we are going to continue that telehealth in the fall to support for students that maybe need more time in their transition back to school. We don't know exactly what everything will look like, but we definitely will be we will be focused on mindfulness and focused on wellness and how to make sure that we're supporting students and their families during this transition back, along with some of our programs that we have in the evening for substance use, our substance use program for students, our vaping program, our alternative to suspension programs. Those are all done in group settings. And so that's going to look a little different in the fall. Groups that we support students with at the school sites. I know Aragon, all of our schools do this, and Aragon does an amazing job with providing group support for students. And so that is a little harder to do for confidentiality reasons through telehealth care. We are working, all of the therapists, we're working closely with our administration and our district administration to figure out how we can make sure that we're offering enough and appropriate supports to students. So those conversations are being had daily. Where, we have a huge focus on summer school as well as returning to school in August. So if there's even questions about that, maybe we can help support answering. Maybe everybody's being mindful.
Yes, everyone is going through mindful exercises. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, as April said, you can feel free. Our information on the previous slide, was there. You can always go to our website, to the wellness section where it has all of our information. If anybody in the next, my goodness, 2 weeks wants to see a wellness counselor, there is a form there that you can fill out by school. If you'd like to make an appointment, you can also, of course, contact your school directly. You can contact the school counselor or our wellness department. So again, I really want to thank our PTSO, special thanks to Shana Callan, Olivia Enriquez, Lourdes Enriquez, and of course our speakers, Tanya and April. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.